Thank you for joining Jennifer Strauss and Associates in our 2019 Webinar Wednesday series. We are coming to you live from downtown Washington, D.C. Our webinars are every Wednesday, and you can find the upcoming schedule on our website. Past webinars and all recordings are also on our website and on our YouTube channel, along with over 160 other recordings on federal contracting topics. All are complimentary. If you have questions for our speaker today, you can email him directly with the contact information you'll see on the last slide. Right, this is just a little bit about us. We are a Washington, D.C. based firm and provide services for federal contractors. This ranges from market analysis reports to proposal writing and also post-award compliance. More information is on our website, so please visit us there. And these are a couple of upcoming events, so you can find more information here, also on our website. And we do offer advertising, so you can email this if you would like more information. And our speaker today is Frank McNally from Public Spend Forum. Thank you for joining us today, Frank. He's going to be covering the ultimate guide to interagency acquisition. Frank, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thanks very much. It's good to be with you today. So this is a webinar we delivered based on a product we developed at Public Spend Forum, which is the ultimate guide to interagency acquisition. It is a guide that we put together to help government contracting professionals better leverage interagency agreements and acquisitions. I understand the audience for these webinars tends to skew towards contractors, so I'll try to sort of tailor this presentation a little bit more towards what you might want to know as a government contractor when you're considering interagency acquisitions. We can go ahead to the next slide. All right, so what I want to talk about today, really quickly, how interagency agreements work and what are their advantages for public sector contracting. We'll take a real quick overview of the four primary types of IAs and talk a little bit about how you might want to use them. We'll identify resources that can assist with using interagency agreements, and that's going to be in that guide that we developed and that will be available for all of you to download. And then I'll talk through this a little bit because I don't think I'll have the opportunity to do an actual demonstration, but at Public Spend Forum, we developed a really great tool called GovShop, and I like to call it a Google for government contracting. So if you're a government contractor out there and you're trying to get found by government buyers, GovShop is a great repository where a lot of government buyers are already coming in to conduct market research. We have a feature that compiles all of the available interagency acquisitions from the GSA schedules down to state and local cooperative purchase agreements. And we're finding a lot of those people are using GovShop to search interagency agreements because it's frankly a better interface than the GSAE library and some of the other aggregators that we're finding out there. So I'll talk a little bit about that at the end, but let's go ahead to the next slide and talk about sort of what IAs are and why we might want to use them. Basically, interagency acquisitions they're contract vehicles. They're hunting licenses. That's how you'll hear them described a lot, maybe around the water cooler. They are awarded by one agency called the servicing agency, but then they can be used by other agencies to place task or delivery orders, and those other agencies would be a requesting agency. Typical contract structure is an indefinite delivery vehicle. A lot of times we'll see them done as indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contracts. Two basic types, assisted and direct. A direct interagency agreement is like a GSA schedule. That's when the requesting agency can literally just go in, place an RFQ or issue an RFQ or place an order directly against that master contract, having little to no involvement from the servicing agency. The other type, assisted, that's when the servicing agency takes on some or all of the procurement activities, and it's usually done for a fee. This is a good example of what they do at NITAC. There's assisted acquisition service there where if you're an agency and you need whatever, services that are being offered and you don't have time to run the procurement yourself, you can have the servicing agency do that for you. That's more common with shared services or GWACs, but for sure, both of these types of IAs are something you want to know about. You want to know which type you're dealing with, especially if you're on the contractor side. Legislative authority that enables interagency acquisition goes all the way back to the Economy Act. Cleaner Cohen Act came a little bit later and authorized GWACs as a way to help government federal agencies buy IT software products more effectively. So those are the two legislative authorities. Not real much need for you to know that. But let's go ahead and talk about some of the benefits and considerations that you might want to keep in mind when you're considering IAs. And this is a little bit more from the buyer side. If I'm a government contracting professional, which I have been, by the way, I was a contracting officer at the Transportation Security Administration, we were always told to use, GSA schedules or other master contracts because of the flexibility and the speed to contract. So we wouldn't have to set up a brand new contract if we could order it off of a schedule. So think about a schedule being something like a catalog. You as the contractor are going to have pre-established rates, pre-negotiated terms and conditions that reside on that master contract. And when the buyer wants to order, they're going to go ahead and place that order with your established rates. As a result of that, sort of that promise of future opportunity to be placed in that catalog without having to go through the full hoops of a request for proposal process, which, as you all know, can cost quite a bit of time and money. The idea is that you can provide those goods and services at a lower price because, not only do you have one buyer interested, but you've got a lot of different buyers that can use that catalog or schedule, and they can buy it much more quickly. So you can kind of pass those savings along to the buyer. But there are some considerations, because it is catalog based and it is pre-negotiated many of the times. There's not a lot of options for the government buyer to customize the product or service. You should be thankful for that as a contractor, because if you were being asked to customize the service every time, suddenly your economies of scale for being on that schedule or that catalog or that interagency agreement would evaporate. There are potential service fees. I think, on the GSA schedule, it's the industrial fee, IFF, is around like 3/4 of a point, I think, and that's paid by the contractor, by the way. So you all will have to pay that service agency fee, again, about 3/4 of a point. There's a lot of talk in the buyer side that that fee just gets passed along to the buyer, but ultimately, it's not that much money, and it does go to pay for a lot of upfront work and a lot of the flexibility that you're getting from using the interagency agreement to begin with. So if that service fee stresses you out, just think about how much more you might pay, to win a master contract, given that it probably would go through that RFP process. Buyers also need to understand whether their agency is even able to utilize a particular interagency agreement. So if you're a business development professional out there and you're pushing your agency to use, or you're pushing your target buyer, whomever, to use an interagency agreement because you have a place on that master contract, obviously you're going to want to make sure that agency is authorized to use that particular interagency agreement. Next slide, please. All right, so there's 4 basic types of interagency acquisitions, 4 primary hunting licenses. There's the multi-agency contract, or the MAC. That's the most general category. That sort of covers, that's the umbrella term that covers all the types of interagency agreements we might talk about. So there's MACs, there's GWACs, government-wide acquisition contracts. That's actually a subcategory of MACs, although we hear it used pretty synonymously with any type of broad agency or multi-agency contract, even though GWACs are primarily actually solely used for IT hardware and IT buying, authorized by the Clean Air Cohen Act. Most common type of interagency agreement you're going to come across are the multiple award schedules, also known as the federal supply schedules, also known as GSA schedules, even though VA operates a federal supply schedule as well. These are also a subcategory of the multi-agency contract. So GSA schedules, we'll spend a minute talking about those here in an upcoming slide. That's your most popular category of interagency agreement, or interagency acquisition, pardon me. Finally, you have the cooperative purchasing programs, or co-ops. These are primarily state, local, tribal, public university, school district type instruments that are used They all have unique ordering procedures that are specific to the instrument and established by the servicing agency, which is typically the state or local office. So, if you are targeting state and local opportunities and you're interested in co-ops, you're going to have to do a little extra research to understand how that co-op works, read it, try to talk to somebody in the agency that administers it, get to be familiar with that, because it's not like just a GSA schedule where it's pretty much the same thing, sin by sin. All right, let's get a little deeper into each of these IAs on the following slides and talk about how you can prepare for them, because obviously everybody on this call, if you're a contractor, you're watching this webinar in a recorded manner, what you care about is the dollar and cents. You care about getting that contract. So here's where I'm going to try to tailor these next slides, please, to the contracting audience. So if we could please go on to the next slide. So max, all right. Ultimately, before you use anything, GSA schedule, GWAC, whatever, the contracting office is going to have to create a written determination and finding, a DNF document that basically establishes why using that particular multi-award contract is the best procurement approach. And that's, if you're curious about that, check out FAR subparagraph 17.501A, and that tells you exactly what a determination and findings, how it's structured and what it should include. Help your contracting point of contact write this. Tacitly or directly, just depends on the relationship you have with the contracting officer. A lot of times they'll say, hey, send me an email about why you think, this particular multi-agency contract is the right approach. And if you're reading between the lines there, which you should be, they're basically saying, hey, I have to write a DNF for this, help me out, right? So that's a little bit of inside baseball there. So that's your first step. If that DNF gets accepted, hopefully then your contracting contact will go on to the next stage, which is issuing the order or asking you to quote based on, of course, the terms and conditions and prices that you would quote it at the master contract level. From there, you really just accept the pricing and the terms that you had already negotiated at the master contract level, and you're off to the races, servicing that particular buyer with their needs. So if you're on Oasis, Connections 2, CS3, you are already on a MAC. And the reason we call them hunting licenses is because the awards don't just come in. I mean, there's a lot of expectation that, oh, great, we've won this master contract. We're on this huge, multiple agency IDIQ or GSA schedule. Let's go ahead and buy the yacht. That's not the case. You've got to go out and drum up the business. And that's why it's important to understand how these work. So, once you win, unfortunately, the hard part starts of encouraging buyers to consider coming and issuing, requests for quote against those vehicles. Obviously, they're going to come out sometimes just organically. So be paying attention to FBO so that you can see when a big order is coming out on Oasis. And keep your ears to the ground because it's a good way to find out. All right, so let's talk about GWACs real quick. So we go to the next slide, please. GWACs, again, operate the same sort of way. If you're on a GWAC, that meant you went through the process of earning that master contract. Maybe it's Alliant 2, maybe it's NASA Soup. It's been awarded, and now you can either encourage the buyers, again, the agencies that are authorized to use these vehicles. If you have a relationship there, encourage them to put that next IT product need out on NASA Soup or Alliant 2, whatever it is, because you're going to limit the competition, right? It's only going to be you and the 17 or so other companies that want to place on that master contract. So pay attention to those opportunity dashboards. You ought to know if you're on Alliant 2 where those opportunities are coming out. And then, don't go after things. It is easier to bid on these RFQs or task order proposal requests or whatever it is they're calling it. It's easier, but it still takes time. So if you're scratching your head thinking, hey, I don't know if this is really right for me, maybe it's wired, maybe it's not worth your time. So bid on the ones that are attractive. Shoot your shot when you think you got a chance at it. All right, so that's GWACs. Let's go on to the next slide. We'll talk a little bit about GSA schedules. Obviously, compete for a spot on that GSA schedule, it's either going to be the GSA as the servicing agency, or VA. I know J. Schaus and Associates offers GSA schedule help. It is not a light lift to get on the GSA schedule. So if you're not already on it, but you're thinking about getting on it, I definitely suggest doing your homework. Fully apprise yourself of the requirements and the implications of getting on GSA schedule. For instance, most favored pricing, right? So if I've actually talked with people I know that own companies that primarily do private sector work. They say, hey, I want to get on GSA schedule, and we talk through it, and then I get to the point where I got to tell them about how this most favored pricing clause works, and it immediately spooks them. The most favored pricing clause basically says that the rates that you offer on GSA schedule should be your lowest rates offered, period. And there's a lot of gray area there, because if you've cut a deal with a private sector client for auto parts or whatever it is you deliver, if you've cut that deal and you gave them just a bargain basement price because you knew it was a strategic opportunity to get in with a big buyer, that can actually come in to hurt you, because that's suddenly you've set the bar pretty low. Now, there are ways to get around it. I can't get into them in this webinar because they're a little bit too advanced and would take too long. But that most favored pricing clause always hangs people up. And that's why I recommend talking to experts, hiring a consultant to help you navigate that GSA schedule award process, which is open on a rolling basis, by the way. A lot of these things, NASA SOUP, GSA schedules, have open-ended sort of proposal dates. So it's not like they have, well, I think with NASA SOUP, there's on-ramps and off-ramps, but definitely with GSA schedules, you can propose at any time. It's an open solicitation period. All right, so let's say you got that GSA schedule award, you got that VA, federal supply schedule, and now you're ready to start drumming up some business. You're ready to go hunting. So pay attention to what's coming out on eBuy for sure. Bid on attractive task and delivery orders, but go and be aggressive. Go and talk to your buyers. Let them know, hey, you're on GSA schedule. So, if we were already talking about something and it seemed like you wanted what I was selling, now you can get it a lot quicker on GSA schedule. This is also why we recommend going and creating your own free profile on GovShop, because you can list the multi-agency contracts, GSA contracts that you have on your GovShop profile, and basically keep buyers aware that, if they want to buy what you're selling, they can do so in a lot more efficient manner using your multi-agency contracts. So encourage your customers to buy more off schedule. Remind them of the time that they can save. Also remind them they can set up blanket purchase agreements against the GSA schedule. That's always kind of a neat thing, right? You think it's tough to do a BPA under an IDIQ, but it's actually encouraged. So BPAs are a nice simplified acquisition instrument that can really help you strengthen a toehold that you have with a federal buyer who's using the GSA schedule for whatever it is you're selling. Okay. All right, let's talk as we close this out about cooperative purchase agreements on the next slide, please. All right, so co-ops. Again, a little bit wild, wild west here because it is state by state. States will typically set up a cooperative purchasing agreement. They'll do it through a traditional procurement channel, and then they'll make that instrument available to other buyers, whether it's only in their state or it can be sort of state by state, is going to be determined at that servicing agency level, and it's going to be described in the terms and conditions of that master contract. So a lot of times too, there are registration requirements that you have to complete in order to be eligible to bid on co-op opportunities, which is different than at the federal space, right? If you've got your SAM.gov registration, if you've got your DUNS number, you're pretty much going to be eligible to compete for all those multi-agency contracts. Not the case all the time at the co-op level. So figure out what it is required to do business with that state, knock those registrations out far in advance, and then you'll be eligible to bid on that cooperative purchasing opportunity. And then you got to stay tuned. There's a great professional association out there that we've worked with at Public Spend Forum called the Professional Association for Cooperative Procurement. They do a really nice job, not only of helping, sort of roadmap the path to cooperative purchase agreements, but also helping you understand what states are doing, when they're coming out, kind of staying aware of what's happening in this co-op space. So if you're interested in this, if you want to do some work with state and local co-ops, definitely a good option for all the reasons we've talked about above. Some examples: NASPO, Value Point, Buy Board. These are all great co-ops. And again, they're all listed on GovShop. You can see sort of the co-ops that are out there and maybe see if there's anything interesting that you feel like you might want to get another hunting license in your belt. All right, so let's go to the next slide. So, threw a lot at you in 30 minutes for sure. We do offer this downloadable guide, which is a nice resource for buyers, but also suppliers, because it's got links to all of the different types of interagency acquisition contracts. So I think that's the most valuable thing in this guide for contracting companies, is that you don't have to search the web anymore to find the NASA Soup landing page or to find the Oasis landing page. Download the guide. Everything's hyperlinked in there. We also include a definition of each of these different types of vehicles, which can be helpful to sort of understand and just sort of keep with you as a desk reference guide. So it is free. Just got to fill out the form and you can download it. It is hyperlinked in these slides. I'm not sure if you're going to get if you're going to have access to that, but you can just Google Ultimate Guide to Interagency Acquisition Public Spend Forum, or go to govshop.com, and I think we've even got a pop-up that'll help you download that for free. So that's it. I don't know if we had any questions come in, or if there's anything I should attempt to cover. But interagency acquisitions, bottom line, save you time and money, give you an opportunity to get more goods and services onto task orders quicker. But just because you win one doesn't mean the work is over. The work really just starts, because it's the hunting license. You got to go find opportunities, scare them up, hunt them down, and be ready, when it's time to take the shot. So that's all I got. I did want to leave time for questions if they are there. I don't know if there's protocol for finishing a little early, or if we just sign off.
We actually don't take questions. But
Okay.
If anybody has questions, you can email him directly with the phone number or email shown on your screen. And today's presentation has been recorded, so it will be posted on our website and YouTube channel within about 48 hours. Thank you, Frank, for sharing your knowledge and insight today, and this concludes the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.